Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Brighton, and today we're going to be reading and reviewing
Harry Potter.
the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. Our word of the day today is wizard, which is a noun meaning a man who has magical powers, especially in legends and fairy tales. Or you can use it as a noun to mean wonderful or excellent.
This is so wizarding.
Wanted to start off by saying that I'm going to be reviewing the books, not the movies. There are some differences in the two, even though they follow the same storyline. So, with that out of the way, let's jump into it. Harry is a peculiar young boy who is thrust into the world of magic after learning his true nature as a wizard. He attends a wizarding school called Hogwarts and there faces many challenges set before him by his prophesied enemy, Lord Voldemort. Since Harry was orphaned as a child, he's been staying with his aunt, uncle, and cousin, and so school becomes like a second home for him, and his friends become the family that he never had. Harry finds that the wizarding world is fun, mysterious, and full of wonder, but also he soon finds out it's dark, dangerous, and full of challenges. This book series has a great deal of personal significance for me because I read fantasy more than any other genre, and that interest in the genre I think was kindled first by Harry Potter. I grew up reading these books, I grew up listening to these books on long family trips. Every time a new one came out from probably book 4 onward, my sisters and my mom would queue in line at the bookstore to pick one up. So it was a big family ordeal as well to read these books. Now this was back before the days where you could just hop online and order a book. So you actually had to stand in line at the bookstore to get one, and my family was definitely one of those families that would go and do that because we were that into the series. So it developed kind of a pecking order in our family where my older sisters and my mom would get to read the books first, and then afterward I would be able to read. So it kind of developed in the way of the fastest readers would be able to get them first, and then the slower readers would be able to get them second. And like I said earlier, my family always listened to the audiobooks on CDs during long car rides, and so it was a huge part of my upbringing. If you've never listened to Harry Potter on audiobook, it is fantastic. Jim Dale is the narrator, and he knocks it out of the park. I think for me, probably my favorite audiobooks are the Harry Potter audiobooks. Once the music kicked on, dun 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 dun, like we were into it and locked in for hours and hours as we drove to grandma's house or whatever it may be.
Good day, grandmother.
The world of Harry Potter was so magical and it was alluring, and that was the reason I was able to get lost in it. And that's something that I've loved even into adulthood now. I actually have 4 different sets of Harry Potter books, and I plan on increasing the size of my Harry Potter library. And so, if you couldn't tell from just that, I really love Harry Potter. I've read through the series 5 or 6 times in my life, and also listened to them on tape probably 3 or 4 times. And so I read through them every few years just to keep them fresh in my brain because I really enjoy the story. Now, as an adult, I fully recognize that there are problems with the story, and over the years, people have expressed more and more issues with the story, the narrative, the characters, and also the author herself. I think that one of the main issues that has been leveled at J.K. Rowling recently has been that in her story, she didn't include some of the character types, messages, narratives, and storylines that are now prominent in today's movies and literature. However, now she is trying to add those things to her story as if she already had them there, and trying to stay with the times by updating certain things and parts of her story.
You are not cool.
It seems that she just didn't have a lot of things in mind when she was crafting her universe, which is completely fine, but now she's trying to say that she did. She's been doing this for years, and I think it's really only been harmful rather than helpful to her story. Instead of just saying, yeah, I just didn't think of that at the time. She's been like, oh yeah, I thought of that before, but I just didn't include it. In my opinion, it's okay if a book does not encapsulate the nuance of modern culture. In fact, sometimes that's what makes a book enjoyable. The characters are flawed. Some of them are not so great. And I think that that's what makes a book and a character compelling. A prime example of that is Professor Snape. He's been hotly debated for a long time. Was he good? Was he bad? Was he a hero? Was he a villain? It's actually something that I'd like to share some thoughts with you at some point on. Let me know if you want a character study on Professor Snape. I'd love to share my thoughts. Even the bad characters, I think, are well written. There are a ton of characters that didn't even make it into the movies. You're constantly getting introduced to new people and new things. There's a whole world getting crafted over the course of the 7 books. One of the coolest things I think that can happen in a book series is when something that is arbitrary in the first couple of books, maybe something is just mentioned, comes back later and has payoff in the later books. And there are a ton of those things in Harry Potter. Unfortunately, however, a lot of those things just never come back, and I feel like there was a lot of plot points that were just abandoned. Sometimes things in the Harry Potter universe just don't make sense, and I think that's one of my biggest critiques about the series in general. The main examples of this for me are just inconsistencies in how the magic system works in the wizarding world. First off, what even makes someone magical in the first place? Is it genetics, like a recessive trait? Is it just in your blood, like they say, like purebloods? Could a muggle just get a blood transfusion and be a wizard? Side note, I would love to see a headcanon about the muggle elite finding out about the wizarding world and then hunting down wizards to get their magic blood. Think about it. But J.K. Rowling would probably say she already thought of that, so maybe not. Anyway, second, what makes a wizard powerful? That's never really cleared up. I think that they mentioned during the OWLs that the power of a spell is based on the power of the wizard's belief that it's going to work, or something like that.
I believe.
But that doesn't really make sense, because once something actually happens, you get results, your belief becomes knowledge. So does that, I don't know how that works. It doesn't make any sense to me. So is it really based on the strength of your mind or your will? Some other magical quandaries include pieces of magic that are subjective rather than objective in how they work, such as Dobby's levitation spell being caught and pinned on Harry, while all the other pieces of magic that are performed around him before he's of age never have any consequences. Also, Thestrals. It doesn't make sense that Harry wasn't able to see them from the start because he saw his mom die as a baby. People pawn that off as being like, oh, well, he was just a baby, so he didn't understand death. But, like, the only requirement that it gives us in the books, as far as I'm aware, is that the person has to have seen death. So it's just kind of weird. How can the physical form of something be completely dependent on the psyche of somebody else? That doesn't make any sense to me. Also, the rules of summoning charms and duplicating objects are a little janky under scrutiny, but these are just a couple of things that I noticed. Comment down below if there's anything that you noticed that are plot holes in Harry Potter. There are also a couple of things that just kind of make me mad about the story. First, why wasn't Hagrid allowed to continue his education, or at least have another wand to be a legitimate wizard after he was proven innocent of any wrongdoing? The injustice! Second, apparition exists, meaning that a person can travel anywhere in the world in a split second, but they use birds. They use owls to transport their post. What? Magic can accomplish almost anything, but wizards choose to enslave beings that they think as lesser. Owls, house elves, trolls, dragons. To what? You have magic. You can do almost anything, and you choose slavery. Like Hermione is treated like she's strange for believing that lesser creatures like house elves should have rights to not be abused. Also, every single adult in these books is terrible at looking after children. Mrs. Weasley I can kind of give a pass for, but she didn't even know where her kids were when they went to go steal Harry from the Dursleys.
Hiya, Harry.
Teachers at Hogwarts, people who are going to be looking after these children while they're away from home, are not properly vetted. Voldemort literally is on the back of Quirrell's head, like attached to his person, and nobody noticed. Professor Moody turned out to be a Death Eater, using Polyjuice Potion to turn into somebody else, and only a few people were suspicious of him.
Danger! No, Will Robinson!
I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there are ways to magically detect these things through vetting teachers, especially after you've realized, oh hey, this one kid is getting targeted and almost killed every single year. Maybe we should up our security a little bit. Gringotts Bank has like a magical waterfall that erases all enchantments. Maybe something like that would be good to put on the gate. So like when you come in, all magic is like erased from off your person so that, you know, you're revealed to be an imposter. That'd be good. You can use a potion called Veritaserum to see if any of the teachers have ill intentions towards any of the students. Like, hey, have you ever abused a student? Yes? Okay, you're out. Hey, do you have any ill intentions this year toward Harry Potter or his friends? Yes? Okay, you're out. Like, and I can see how that could snowball into worse things, but I just feel like in this magical world where not a whole lot is standardized or there's not a whole lot of oversight, you can do that to make sure that teachers aren't Voldemort and that teachers aren't imposters and that teachers don't want to harm students. I just think that that would be beneficial, you know? Professor Snape was straight up abusive to students, and so was Umbridge. And those aren't the only cases where adults were negligent or abusive to students. The Triwizard Tournament is a straight up death trap for children. One of the parts of the competition is literally stealing an egg from a dragon. Like, I understand that magic can, like, heal people's bodies and can protect people, but it's very clear that magic cannot bring someone back from the dead other than just to, like, show you their apparition and they can, like, talk to you later in the books. But you can't bring someone back from the dead. So if a child dies at Hogwarts, like Moaning Myrtle, you can't do anything about it. The complete lack of competency shown by the adults in the Harry Potter universe is nuts. Despite these issues that I have, the books always keep me coming back and reading them over and over again. The world building is great, the characters are compelling. I actually care about some of the characters in this book on a personal level because I kind of grew up with them. There's nearly unlimited lore that you can explore and have questions about constantly. I think there's also a large part of it that's simply nostalgia. This book series has a lot of nostalgia and personal memories for me. Like I mentioned before, it's a huge part of my family and my upbringing. I like that the main characters aren't just good at everything. Like Harry Potter himself isn't a particularly gifted or driven wizard. And Rowling's writing, though imperfect, is easy to read and easy to follow. A lot of the names in this book series are made up, but it's easy to understand despite that. I also enjoy that there are snippets of wisdom to be gleaned from these imperfect characters. I care about the characters, like I said. I love some of these characters. And they seem real to me. They're easy to relate to. And all these things together, to me, is what makes Harry Potter so great. But what do you think of Harry Potter? Please comment down below. Also, if you have any suggestions about what I should read and review next, tell me. Don't forget, please, to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time reading page by page.